Hi, everybody. Welcome. This is two EdTech guys take questions and share cool stuff, because that is exactly what we do as a part of the show. And we hope that you are excited to learn a few things and that we are actually prepared to teach you a few things that might be useful. That's the hope, as always. And the captions are already on. Thank you very much. Now, we thank you for joining us. We thank you if you are watching this as a recording. A reminder for those watching the recording on the nextvista.org webinars page for two EdTech guys take questions. You will find the slides and the links to the different things we mention over the course of this program in the same space, just above where you see the video piece there. So feel free to join there. A couple of organizations stand behind this fine little show. One of them is Free Tech for Teachers. So Richard, tell us a little bit about Free Tech for Teachers.
freetechforteachers.com is my little website I started 15 years ago to share cool EdTech tools and tips that I was coming up with and coming across, and it's still there. Check it out at freetechforteachers.com. To call it an organization is a bit of a stretch. It's kind of unorganized, actually. It's just me.
a somewhat organized organization, as is this little nonprofit, Next Vista for Learning, which is a little thing I started in 2005 to build a library of free videos by and for teachers and students everywhere, free to use, free to contribute to, free to download from. No ads, no registration, no scummy tracking stuff. It's all for a student audience, all screen content, my own little attempt to save the universe from ignorance, one creative video at a time. So that is nextvista.org. You'll find videos there about academic topics and communities around the world and service to others and careers and all sorts of things. And so if you're interested in that, just let us know and we will be happy to talk to you more about it. I have a little project going on called Improve the World, and your kids could offer up ideas that are taken by service clubs, Rotary clubs in different parts of the planet to launch things in their community. If you're interested in that, stay in touch with me. How does this work? We take questions and share cool stuff. There you go. So let's jump right into the questions. And Richard, I think we've got one that's going to start us from, is it Ray Dean who asked this first question?
Yes, it is. And for those who are in the live studio audience, feel free to drop in your questions or comments, concerns, and derogatory remarks in the live chat. So first question from Ray Dean, who asked, I watched your tutorial on the new feature of YouTube where you can clip and share a small portion of a video. By the way, that's a feature that's in beta. It's really cool. It's available in some accounts, not all accounts, as it turns out. But she writes, when I try the option to share the clip to other outlets, it never pops up. I can click on the share button, but then nothing else happens. So what it sounds like to me is that you have a pop-up blocker, or I mean a pop-up blocker. The default setting in most browsers now is to block pop-ups. And it sounds like that's what's happening, because Radine was able to access the clipping tool. She was able to actually clip the section of the video that she wanted to share, and she could clip that. She could hit the share button. She could hit the share button, but she wasn't getting the actual little pop-up window that says, here's your link to share this section of the video. So my solution, enable pop-ups. So you can do that in your Chrome settings, your Firefox settings, or your Microsoft Edge settings, or even in Safari. Just go into the browser settings and allow pop-ups for YouTube or any website you want to allow it for, because the default generally is to block all pop-ups. By the way, that feature is really cool. If you haven't seen it, I have a video about it. I'll put a link to it in there, but it allows you to share a 15 to 60 second section of a YouTube video. It will play it on a continuous loop if you embed it into another website. So you can, go through, pick any tutorial you find and you say, hey kids, you only need to see this 20-second part right here, right? You don't need the 20-second introduction and the 20-second outro. You just need that little 20-second part in the middle. Clip just that part and share it with them. There have been third-party tools in the past that did this, but they all tend to get shut down as soon as Google changes their algorithm or YouTube changes some of their API settings. This is really cool. All right, I'm going on long enough about that.
Well, it sounds good. It sounds a little bit like Much easier to use than Edpuzzle, but without all of the cool things that Edpuzzle allows you to do. Is that fair enough to say?
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. That's a good way to put it. And yeah, and it's all above board, right? Some of those tools that existed in the past for doing these sorts of things were like kind of skirting the rules on YouTube's terms of service, and that's why they kind of got shut down quite often, or had some really sketchy things happening in the background that you may or may not have known about. So this is all kind of above board. So,
cool.
All right, cool. So
I would add to that that in thinking about educational videos that you and your students make, one of the things to consider is that, why would people want, for example, to grab just a portion of a video? And that's because often videos are kind of built to be these things that cover 7 different topics. And just a word for the value of creating 7 different short videos instead of creating one video that addresses 7 topics, because for a lot of people who want to watch videos, that's actually a more efficient way about it, and allows you to kind of build sets in ways that are very helpful. If you have to come back and make a change in one at some point, you don't have to change the entire video.
Yeah,
there you go.
If anybody you want me to demo how this works real quick, or just see what it looks like?
Sure, I'll stop sharing.
Yeah. And I'm gonna show a video that I know we can use later and won't get flagged for a copyright violation, because this is a buddy of mine, Tom Ritchie, who makes some awesome videos for U.S. history or just general world history.
Okay.
Let's go ahead and share my screen real quick, and we'll take a look at it. Hey, Kim's there. So it's right here. There's Tom talking about the 13 colonies. And there's this little clip button right here. And when you clip it, you can then go over here and say, oh, I need, just this section here. I don't need you can see I've cut out Tom's intro here where he's talking about who Tom Ritchie is. And I'm just going to share this part of the lesson with my students and say, hey kids, watch this, right? Watch this. And I share that clip. And it gives me that link to share just that clip. So pretty cool, handy little tool. And also check out Tom Ritchie's website when you get a chance.
Absolutely. That is nice. And I noticed that you have to add some kind of a description before it will let you create the link.
Yep.
All right. Good stuff there. I believe our next question is from Joanna.
Yeah, and that question, can I use Moat to record audio on Google Slides and add it to play during a presentation? I'm a high school ESL teacher and I want to read aloud a book, but I don't want to do it 6 times. Don't blame you. I want to read and record it and then play it. Can Moat help me with this, or do you suggest another platform? I would say you could do it in Moat, but I wouldn't, because the free version of Moat limits you to 30 seconds of recording at a time. And if you're talking about trying to read a book, you're going to be making a lot of 30-second recordings that you're then going to have to insert into your slides. And that's kind of going to be a pain. The paid version of Moat lets you record longer, but I believe it's still only 3 minutes at a time. So for what she's talking about, probably, again, not a great solution. It is a solution, not a great one. My suggestion is, if you really want to make a long audio recording, you could use a tool like vocaroo.com and then download that as an MP3 and upload it to Google Drive to use in your slides. If you have access to Audacity or GarageBand, and you want to make a full-fledged recording that has intro and outro music and all those and all the editing things, do that and then upload it to Google Drive to use in your slides. But I like your solution probably better, Rushton.
So my question for Johanna was, why not just screencast it? So you make a video of yourself you can do it with your slides right there. And you can talk as long as you want, effectively, right? The value there is that whole thing of not wanting to do something 6 times, which is the rallying cry that more teachers should kind of be into, right? is something that is even better if, as a video, as an easily accessible video, a student can go back because he or she needs to hear an explanation multiple times or wants to hear a story multiple times. Just be aware that if you are reading a story that is published, copyrighted, then that may be an issue as well, right? So not a bad thing to go out and search for stories that are just kind of available in the public domain. You can find that kind of stuff on archive.org as well, and a lot of possibilities there.
Yeah, and I think this might be a good time to point out that there are probably some other platforms that might be a little bit better for what she's talking about doing.
Yeah.
Book Creator comes to mind, as does Write Reader, depending on the age of your students. That would be a good solution as well. Both are really designed for creating multimedia books, right? And that's kind of what Joanna was talking about there, is that you're reading a book aloud, and you might look at one of those tools. Write Reader, by the way, for those who aren't familiar with it, if you're working with younger kids, has a bunch of licensed imagery from Sesame Street and other popular PBS shows, so might be worth looking into as well. All right.
Yeah, the book creator crowd is a real good one. I mean, like that's a good set of folks as well. When the Chrome version of Book Creator came out, that was a bit of a game changer for folks, bringing Chromebooks in bulk into schools, and so a real good one to look at if you're not familiar with. Speaking of good things to look at, Richard, I believe you've got a little bit of a tune to sing our way here.
Yeah, I mean, good. I like that one. I think I actually shared this last year or 2 years ago in one of our episodes, I think. But I'm bringing it back because Wordtune, you'll find it at wordtune.com, was originally just a Chrome extension that you could use to highlight the text in your Google Docs or in your email and get some suggestions for how to write your sentences better. Uses some magical AI, and you highlight your text and it will give you a suggestion on other ways to write it. I'm not quite sure what Kim was talking about there, but anyway, now Wordtune will work in Microsoft Word. So if you're a Word person, you can now use it there, and you can also use it with Outlook. So it's now, working in the Google ecosystem and the Microsoft ecosystem, and that's why I chose to share it this week. But I had a whole bunch of things I wanted to share this week, but that was probably the coolest one.
I love that the captioning tool in slides took Microsoft ecosystem and made it into nitrous oxide.
Yeah, well,
I'm gonna count that a fun thing.
That says something about how fast I start talking sometimes, I think.
and by the way, a style point. Speaking of talking fast, Kim made a note earlier in the chat about teachers finding an old tape recorder and like recording things. And one thing about recording your voice to everybody, by the way, one of the things you'll hear again and again from kids when you do any kind of voice recording stuff is you'll hear things like, "I don't like the way I sound when my voice is recorded," right? And at that point, my standard response is, "It's fine, use a different voice." What? Right? And just knowing that they can choose to use this voice or use this voice or whatever it is can actually be an interesting path towards building some self-confidence there. So kind of good fun. From self-confidence to empathy, the video that I am mentioning here, which we've got in the Next Vista Inspiring video post for this week. That is now in the chat for everybody. Man, this video. And matter of fact, after I put this out as kind of a highlighted piece in my monthly newsletter, I had people writing back going, "Oh my God, that video," right? And what it is, it's the Cleveland Clinic, Cleveland, Ohio, right? And they're talking about their value for about empathy as a part of what they do and how they think about their work. And it is a beautiful, beautiful video about thinking about the struggles that others may face that you never see, which brings to mind some very important quotes out there from the late Robin Williams and folks like that. But I got some good prompts in there with it as well. And by all means, Judith says, Kleenex, please. Judith, I'm with you. This is a really, really powerful video, and hopefully one that is very helpful to kids to think about others in good ways. I will say it packs an emotional wallop. I think I wrote about it. And so just be prepared. It might hit pretty close to home for some of your students. Back to the questions. And the next question, I think, is from Hamish.
Hamish, yeah.
Hamish, sorry.
He asked, I have years 7 through 9 on Chromebooks here at my school, and my English faculty want them to do a podcast. I tried Audacity as an extension, but found it to be garbage. Do you know of anything for our Chromebooks? Yeah, so I had 2 suggestions here. And I will agree that Audacity as an extension is not the best. And Audacity in general, the desktop version of it is great, but the learning curve can be kind of steep depending on how much background your students have, or you have, or your faculty have. So suggestion number 1 was Twisted Wave, which I think I actually learned about from you, Rushton, many years ago.
All right.
Twisted Wave, you can find it at twistedwave.com. Cool thing, it has enough editing tools to be sufficient for podcasting, but not so many that it won't confuse kids. So and I like that. And it also will save automatically to Google Drive. So that's a nice handy feature as well. My other suggestion, if you have access to WeVideo has an option to just edit audio and not make a whole video. You can just do audio editing and export it as an MP3 file in WeVideo. So if you're if you already have a WeVideo account for your school, that's a good option as well.
I'd add Soundtrap as an option. The free version is a bit limited in terms of like how much you can record and things like that, but it does give you, at least the last time I tried it, it's been some months since I was last on Soundtrap, a good feel for the breadth of the tools they have. It really is an interesting, it was actually designed as a tool to allow musicians in different parts of the world to collaborate with each other. But educators jumped on it because of all of the cool things it can do for cool learning. But a cool thing to look out, soundtrap.com.
Cool. Yeah. And let's go on to, speaking of audio, let's move into video. What do you think?
I am always up for talking about a little video.
Yeah. So question from James, who asked, we are implementing WeVideo at my school. Interested in your thoughts. Have you posted about this? I have in the past, and I actually wrote back to James with some experience that I had with it last year with my students. I had my students last year create some short instructional videos for my PC repair class, my computer repair class. And WeVideo was fine for that, was sufficient for that. I will, this is more reflection on the Chromebooks and bandwidth than it is on the WeVideo itself. That the real-time collaboration isn't always exactly real time, is what some of my students found last year / complained about last year. They sometimes were occasionally editing over each other without intending to. So that's one thing to keep in mind. And again, not necessarily a reflection on WeVideo as it is so much the Chromebooks they're using and bandwidth considerations. And I'd also point out, this is just something I've learned over the years. Students, like the rest of us, have a habit of keeping a ton of browser tabs and various apps running in the background. Turn them off. I say the same thing when we're talking about Google Earth. If you're using Google Earth, turn off everything that you don't need at the moment. Same thing with WeVideo, and your experience will be much, much better.
Fair enough. Kim Case, the wonderful Texan who does lots of great stuff in the EdTech space, always good to have you here, mentions Animoto as a good tool for that as well, which is a great suggestion. I would add that in the challenge in getting, say, WeVideo or any video tool across your campus is not the tech related to the tool. It's getting people in a frame of mind of using video so that it enhances what kids learn and how they think about themselves as learners. And so, there's a lot of work and a lot of conversations to be had on your team about what does it mean to change the audience, right? So, one of the things I say about video all the time is this: when kids know that others will see their work, they want it to be good. When it's just for the teacher, they want it to be good enough. Does it give me the grade I want? That kind of thing. And so a real value of video is thinking in terms of, all right, here are your parameters. And in putting this together, just think in terms of how do you explain this in some creative way, and get them away from like, outtakes and stuff at the end, the blooper reel. That's always a bad thing. If you're running into issues of, well, families are like, no, we don't know enough about video to use it. Why are you making my kid do this? And blah, 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 blah. Just give the kids the option of writing a paper instead. And that'll get you off the hook on that. And I could give you about 100 other pieces of advice about using video, but I think we do have one more question that we want to get to before we finish up today. So
I wanted to throw mine in about WeVideo. I had one other tip about WeVideo.
Oh yeah,
I worked in the class a few years back in an 8th grade class, and the teacher wanted them to make some videos. They're basically book review videos, what they're making. And she started to get into the project, and she came to me and said, "These are horrendously boring," I think was her exact phrase. And I said, "Well, what's happening?" She said, "They're just talking over their slides. It's just like you might as well do that in front of the class." And
not that we're talking over slides at the moment.
Right, exactly.
But all good.
Well, the other thing was the kids weren't putting their faces in the video, so it was really just kids talking over slides. Like there was no movement happening, right? Brutal. So these kids were talking for 15 to 20 seconds per slide, and it's just like, so put some kind of movement into every slide. Even if you're doing just slides in WeVideo and voice over it, put some kind of movement in every few seconds. Use the Ken Burns effect, zoom in, zoom out, try to implement some transitions as much as possible, and use background music. That's the other thing. Always put in background music, or it sounds like kids are making hostage videos.
Another way to prevent this from becoming a snooze fest is to seriously limit the time that they have available for their video. I used to tell my students 45 seconds max, and they're like, "Oh no, we need more time." I'd be like, "Nope, 45." And then they'd make great videos. Why? Because they didn't have to stretch things out, which made them boring and brutal. And I still have a twitch that may go away at some point from some of those videos. But once they did it, once they put that together, they could put some good stuff together. Joanne, I think, has our last question.
Joanne has our last question, and that is, I want to have my students make a podcast in 6th grade on a current event topic, and then make a QR code for the website for parents. My question is, I need to show them exemplary podcasts as a model. Do you know where I can find that list? Otherwise, I have to locate and make my own list. Suggestions? Yeah. National Public Radio. NPR did a student podcast challenge. They've done it every year for, 6 or 7 years now. Great place to go. Check that out. You'll find lots of student podcasts and really good ones. So check that out.
I would add that think about the circumstances under which you're doing this, right? So if what's happening is parents are looking at student art exhibition, and they're going to each one and reading the QR code and hearing about the piece of art as they look at it, that's perfect. That makes tons of sense, right? If on the other hand, what you're trying to do is to say, hey, what we want is something that allows parents to get to a lot of different items, or anyone to get to a lot of different items, rather than QR codes, which is like doing one thing multiple times. If you have like a single tiny URL or a single QR code that takes the user to a doc, a Google Doc that's been made available to anyone on the internet can see with a link, right? And then you just have like a description, in a bulleted list of, say, the name of the kid and what they've got and things like that. Then with one tiny URL or with one QR code, somebody would be on a doc that they would be able to get to all of the items, without having to like keep going back and forth. So it's another way to do it. I'll put an example in the chat on that, tinyurl.com/nv-video-sets, which is a document I made with a bunch of different student created videos so that students could see how there's a lot of different ways to make a video, which can be useful for them since, they tend to like see an example and then everybody makes a video just like that, which is, again, in the brutally deadly boring kind of department that we talked about a little while back. Richard, anything to add to this before we go on to the wind down?
I would just say, if you're looking for other examples of student podcasts, the New York Times also does a student podcast challenge, and you can check that out for examples as well. I put links to the NPR one and the New York Times one in the chat.
Very cool indeed. All right, so you can go and sign up for newsletters. I have a newsletter. Richard has a newsletter, and every month I give away a free cup of Starbucks. Huh? What a nice guy I am. Feel free. I wrote some books. Feel free to take a look at those. Speaking of books, there's a handbook.
Yeah, speaking of things that are given away, go to my website, practicaledtech.com/weekly newsletter. Sign up for my newsletter, and you'll get a copy of my Practical EdTech handbook. About 70 pages of some of my favorite EdTech tools and tips. And I also have another ebook for people who are interested, who are tech coaches, who need some kind of like last minute, oh no, they've asked me to do a workshop on Tuesday afternoon and it's Tuesday morning. I've got an ebook for that as well. Check it out.
Is that the next slide?
That's on the next slide.
Boom.
Yeah. 50 Tech Tuesday tips. Created it, again, with tech coaches in mind, for those who are asked at the last minute, hey, can you do something because our other person canceled? Yeah, this is you. This is what you need. Check out my YouTube channel. 40,000 people keep watching my screencasts for some reason, so check that out.
It's because they're good. It's because they get to the point.
Sometimes they're good. My face is in them usually, and I try to solve problems. That's what I try to do. If you have a problem, send me an email, send me a tweet. That's that.
Awesome. Our next episode is 4 weeks from today. It's Thursday, April the 7th, 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific. I believe that's 10 p.m. Central European time, but then again, we're about to change our clocks, and then a week later, the Europeans change their clocks, and God knows what it'll be by that time.
What time will it be in Arizona, Rushton?
It will be a time in Arizona. I think that's the important thing to know. So if you have any comments about our little show here, feel free to send them to us via nextvista.org/contact. You can reply to Richard's messages as well. I mean, just let us know. We're very happy to like make this a little show that kind of works well for you. So thank you very much for joining in. We hope that you are on your way to having like a really cool weekend. If you are the kind of person who starts your weekend on Thursday afternoon, and if so, more power to you. All good. Go forth, spread a little peace and goodwill, share with someone who desperately needs a little tip about some tech that they can find some of that stuff on this show and in other cool places. And with that, we'll say goodbye.